Oh, they can hear you too. You're the little kooky voice in the background. Oh, my Lanta. Oh, they can hear you too. You're the little kooky voice in the back. Okay. All right, there's like echoey and shit. Hey, it's me, Neil Patterson. I'm a guy. I'm a dude. I'm a bro, and I'm just chilling here. And we got to make this one a shorty. This is episode 50 of my podcast. I've been doing this for 50 fucking episodes, which blows my mind. Started in a van last year, me just rambling about my life. And then I got some guests. That was fun. We did that. We had some guests. Now we have some more guests. Today we have Mr. Dave Plow, a.k.a. Mr. Plow, from a Canadian via Portland, Oregon, and now an American. But we're going to get into all that. And just real quick plug. I got these masks here. It's it's an orange. Yeah, it's an orange guy.
So I forgot social distancing.
Yeah, no, you don't. You're good, dude. So
no, we're gotta stay 6 feet.
But yeah, I mean, Dave is in the waiting room, but his mic is live, so you're hearing Dave as well. But we're gonna get into it. I have an issue, a health issue that I need to address, which means I can't stream as much anymore, and I can't sing. Singing makes it worse. Let's just say when I sit down and I exert myself, and I do it for long periods of time, I'm in pain. I'm a man in pain right now. So the podcast from now on is going to be an hour. The streams from now on, they're going to be an hour. I'm not going to be able to sing until this gets better. For any of you motherfuckers out there that enjoy my beautiful singing voice, it's over. Those days are gone. I need to take a break from singing and sitting for long periods of time. I have issues. I'm taking care of these fucking issues. When the issues are resolved, I will resume to my normal scheduled shit. But as for now, this is a podcast, and we're going to get into it. And I got Mr. Dave Plow. And Dave Plow is a folk punk guy, musician, friend, and also he co-wrote a book called Family Business, which we're going to get into what that book is about. So I'm going to go over here to the Zoom, and I'm going to hit this button right here, and we're going to have a conversation with Mr. Dave Plow. Dave.
Oh, hi.
Yeah, let me, I'm fucking everything up today, dude. We're here. We're live.
I'm here.
So, yeah.
Hey.
What's up, dude? I don't,
you know,
I think last time I talked to you was like 2013 or something. I mean, like in person. We were on that weird DIY tour when we just put out that.
Yeah, I booked you that really shitty show here in Portland, and now that venue no longer exists.
What was that place called?
I can't remember, but let's just call it the shithole.
Okay. We also on that tour we played Dante's. We played twice in Portland on that tour. Just because of routing or something. And when we played that Dante's, it was raining. And we played in front of nobody. And after we got done playing, they like made us put our gear in the alleyway behind the bar, even though there was no one in the bar. And so it all was getting rained on. And
it was weird.
Yeah, that was no fun. But that was a long time ago. That was a while ago, man. What?
6-7 years ago?
Yes, 7 years.
But I first met you when you toured with Psycho Stick.
Yeah, that was a good show.
Because we have a mutual friend in Norwood, and
yeah,
he got a hold of me and was like, "You need to meet these guys. These guys are the shit." And I'm like, "All right, if it comes from you, then I know it's true."
Oh, I love Norwood.
Yeah, he's a good man.
Yeah, so that's how you and I know each other, Portland dude. But you're from Canada originally. Explain.
Originally, like Will Smith says, born and raised where I spent most of my days was up in Vancouver, Canada. Started the whole Mr. Plow thing up there. But before I did the Mr. Plow thing, I used to pick up dead bodies for a living. Ooh.
Yeah.
And spent a good chunk of time doing that, and decided to get all those dead bodies out of my head and put them into a book. So, but then
so was that all, when you were in that family business, was that all in Canada? Like you haven't like since you came to the States, you haven't been picking up dead bodies?
No. Okay. Like pretty much since I decided to I used to work in a cemetery digging graves, right? And then I got promoted from that to then taking bodies to the grave instead by doing body removal I worked for a body courier service, pretty much. But we also worked for the coroner service. So I saw homicides, suicides, car accidents. Guy jumps in front of a moving train. You name it. I have seen the outcome of what takes place.
Holy shit!
When it comes to death.
And is that's the family business?
I worked for my dad.
Okay.
He was the overseer at the cemetery that I worked at. Like, he was the head caretaker of the cemetery and ran the funeral business there. And then he also had a removal service where he did body removal for the coroner service and then also for other funeral homes. So sometimes say a guy named Billy gets hit by a car, I pick him up at the car accident and take him to the morgue.
Oh,
and
wow.
Then, to get the autopsy and get checked out and all that. But then a day or two later, I could then end up seeing that Billy again, taking him from the morgue to the funeral home if I work for that funeral home.
So you did both?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So sometimes I would end up even seeing the same person 3 or 4 times, because you would go from where the incident took place to the morgue, from the morgue to the funeral home, from the funeral home to the crematorium, so I could end up seeing the same person over and over and over again.
That's fucking wild. What city was this in?
Vancouver.
Okay.
The whole surrounding like suburbs of Vancouver as well.
Is that where Nardwar is from?
Nardwar,
Yeah.
my buddy Nardwar. Yeah.
You know that dude?
Dude, I met him about 23 years ago. I met him at one of his shows because he plays with a band called the Evaporators.
Yeah,
He's the singer. Amazing live show. And he would always start off the Evaporator shows because he likes to talk a lot, right?
Oh yeah.
And he would always start off with these really insane, really kind of dry monologues. And while the band is all tuning their instruments and whatever, right? And Nardwar was talking about, like, he had the old large action figures from Planet of the Apes. So he's talking about something about Cro-Magnon and, how we've all evolved. And this is an all ages show. Nobody gives a shit. No one's paying attention. And I'm just like in awe, right? Because I grew up watching him on cable access TV, watching his interviews. And this was well before YouTube and everything.
Yeah.
And so I was in complete awe. I was awestruck, right? I'm like, this is Nardwar. And at the very end of his really dry monologue, he says, and if anybody wants to come with me to meet Slayer on Friday, and I'm listening, I'm going, meet Slayer? Fuck yeah, I'm going to come meet Slayer. So I was the only one that came up to him afterwards and said, I want to go meet Slayer with you. He said, yeah, okay, no problem. He calls me on the Thursday. I meet him on the Friday. He goes, you're my camera guy. And he hands me a disposable camera that he bought at the gas station and goes, just fill the fucking thing up with photos of me and Slayer. I go, okay. So I just walked around, click, taking photos for, 25 minutes. The interview went off great. And he's like, if you ever want to come on interviews with me again, you're totally into it. No problem. I said, sure. And, he's had me on his shows, on his weekly radio show over the years, talking about death. We got phone calls, people asking really bizarre questions about death. And then, of course, we talked about the whole Mr. Plow thing. And yeah, we've just been friends. And I got to do another interview with him where I was his bodyguard for this one where he met Quiet Riot. And it went completely horrible. So
was that when Kevin Dubrow was in the band?
Yeah.
He probably didn't get the joke.
Well, considering he wears a poodle wig. So if you want me to tell you this story, it's pretty insane.
Sure, why not? I mean, because this is the thing is like when Norwood, I can't even talk. I mixed Norwood and Nardwar together.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nardwar.
When Nardwar interviews people, some of the people aren't in on the joke. Like, no. And they actually, like, what was the group that actually like physically assaulted him on one of the?
Okay, yeah. So Sebastian Bach punched him in the head when he was interviewing Skid Row, and Sebastian Bach stole the toque off his head. Toque, aka beanie,
Canadian
knitted cap.
Yeah, that's Canadian American slang, right? Toque.
It's like you took your toque, but you took your toque.
Okay. I'm learning.
So yeah, it's French Canadian. And so yeah, they Sebastian Bach stole his toque, and because Skid Row was in Vancouver recording their record. I think it was the Slave to the Grind record, because Motley Crue had success in Vancouver with Dr. Feelgood and the Girls record. Bon Jovi had major success with Slippery When Wet, which was also recorded in Vancouver. Aerosmith had Permanent Vacation that was recorded there. So there was a lot of success recording in Vancouver.
Is that because is Bob Rock Canadian? Didn't he?
Bob Rock was from the Payolas, which was based out of Vancouver. He's a Vancouverite. Okay. And yeah, so there's that connection. And then the guy he worked under, Bruce Fairburn, he's the bigger success who did the Bon Jovi, who did the Aerosmith, and I actually picked up his body when he died of a heart attack. But that's another story.
Wow. So
so it comes full circle.
That's insane. So okay, so
Nardwuar. Hang on, this Nardwuar.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll take 3 circles to
I
get
have
back to 1 circle.
I'm just like this is a lot.
Yeah. I got it all for you.
Do it, baby. Do it.
You just take that red string and put it up with the thumbtack so you can make all the connections.
Do the Charlie Day.
So yeah, Skid Row's in Vancouver to record the album. They do this yearly Toys for Tots Christmas thing, right? So they get a bunch of bands and all the money goes to buying toys for kids at Christmas, right? So Skid Row's in town. Hey, Skid Row, come do these charity shows. Okay, whatever. So what happens is, not Nardwuar, but somebody else plans this huge protest outside of the show that Skid Row is playing. Everyone's holding up signs, give him back the toque, give Nardwuar back his toque. So it was a protest on behalf of Nardwar's toque, right? This well-known music reviewer in Vancouver for the local paper goes in, the security guys are going, "You're not with them, are you?" And he's like, "Oh, no. I'm here to review the show." "Oh, okay." He goes in, he sneaks his way, because everyone knew, he's local celebrity guy, goes downstairs, goes up to Skid Row and says, "Give the guy back his fucking toque. There's a lot of protesters outside. Just give him back his fucking toque." So he actually had it that night with them, and he gave it to the music review guy, and he brought it back outside and gave it, and Nardwuar actually got his toque back. But he got punched in the head by Sebastian Bach. Well, hey, that's something to be told. But okay, so I went with him to meet Quiet Riot, right? It was the big, we got a new album. Oh, we're cool. It's like, you're still a bunch of fucking idiots. And so it starts off, because Nardwuar, you know how he is, where he just wants to stick you, right? He just wants to get these questions, and he'll ask any question. He doesn't care where it comes from, because he would have a message board on his website saying, "I'm interviewing so-and-so. If you have a question for so-and-so, I'll ask it. Just type it into the message board." So you could be like, "Hey, how many shits do you take daily?" And he'll ask that question.
Yeah.
If he wants to. And so he goes up to Kevin DuBrow right at the very beginning of the interview and says, "Kevin DuBrow, you sold 10 million copies of Mental Health. You huge success around the world, but yet you live in your mother's basement and you drive your mother's car to work. What happened?"
Oh no.
He's like, "I can't talk about it. Legal matters. We're working on getting our royalties or whatever," right? And he's like, "Okay, sure enough." So he asks a couple questions and then goes right back to this. "So why do you live in your mom's basement?" Right? He starts getting agitated. He then pulls out photos of Kevin DuBrow playing live on big arena Coliseum stage in Vancouver from 15 years earlier, where he had a buzzed cut hair, so you could totally see the hairline of Kevin DuBrow, right? So he goes, "Hey, in this picture you look like this, but now you look like this. Do you wear a poodle wig?" Which then Kevin DuBrow loses his shit and storms off, right? Rudy Zarzo is still sitting there, and you're like, oh, it's Rudy Zarzo. Oh.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And he asked Rudy. Rudy just broke out laughing. He's like, I can't answer that question, right? The manager drags Kevin DuBrow back because this was actually being filmed for the Canadian music channel, which was Much Music, which like, you know, version of MTV, right?
Yeah.
And so we actually had that camera guy with us. He's filming all this. And Kevin DuBrow comes back in a huff, sits down, and Nardwar's like, okay. I won't ask you about, you know, the 10 million records anymore. I won't ask you about the poodle wig. So then he's asking a couple more questions. And Kevin DuBrow's talking about the new record. None of us give a shit about the new record. And then he says, hey, do you feel responsible for Randy Rhoads' death since you let him leave your band to go join Ozzy Osbourne?
Oof.
Right? They both jaws drop. They both storm away. Right? So we're like, what do we do? Like, do we stand here? Do we wait for them to have the manager drag them back? Or like, should we start packing up? What's the deal? Next thing you know, we're surrounded, or I should say, Nardwuar and the camera guy are now surrounded. All 4 guys in the band, their manager, 3 hardcore looking security guys for the venue, surrounding him going, we're calling the cops. This was a terrible interview, and give us the tape. And Nardwuar is like, no, you're calling the cops for a bad interview? Like, that's not how it works, you know? And needless to say, they called the cops, gave the APB on what I looked like, on what Nardwuar looked like, you know, because he's all in plaid like he normally is.
It's pretty easy to spot, yeah.
Look for the giant kilt running down the street, you know? And yeah, we ended up having to give the tape over, and the camera guy actually was trying to switch out the tape and put a blank tape in for that reason, but he didn't get it done in time. And next thing you know, we're hightailing it out of there as the guy's calling cops. And yeah, there's no interview. So it was, and then Nardwuar went to the press with it because as I was driving home, I heard Kevin DuBrow interviewed on the Hard Rock station. And the first thing he did for the first 5 minutes was talk shit about Nardwuar and what a horrible interview it was, right? So Nardwuar went and got the transcripts from the radio station, because you can go to any radio station and ask for transcripts of like between this hour and this hour.
Oh, wow.
And they legally have to give it to you.
No way.
Or at least up in Canada.
Right, okay.
Just come grab them. And so, sorry, young ones running around the room.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I called, well, this was back in the day, so I had to pull over at a payphone to call Nardwuar, and I knew he wasn't home, so I just left him a voice message, to which he then called me a couple hours later at home, and he was like, are you serious? I said, yeah. He then took the transcript and went to the media, and I remember the headline, it was in the national paper that said, the riot that was not so quiet in Vancouver. And it just talked about all the crap that took place. It kept the guy, the cameraman from Much Music was not listed whatsoever because we didn't want him to lose his job over this. So it was just Nardwuar and Mr. Plow, security / cameraman who fought quiet riots. Hey, go see Mama. I'm busy.
That's hilarious. So you were involved in some history that is not documented, except for that newspaper article. That interview just doesn't exist now, correct?
It does. Go. Can you grab him, please?
Yes, I'm coming.
Thank you.
Oh, man.
It's that time of day, nap time.
It is that time.
So yeah, like, sorry.
This is a first. Dude, this is a first. This is the first time.
Chaos!
Yeah, a child crying on my podcast. This is the first. Thank you.
You can edit it, record it.
No, this is live, bro. Yeah, I could loop it, but
so yeah, it was. It's only a mental thing now, and like I told Nardwuar one day I want to do a reenactment using Legos. So whether or not that comes to is another thing. Mind you, half of Quiet Riot's dead now, so.
Yeah, I mean, is Rudy Sarzo still alive?
Yeah, the drummer just died this week of cancer.
Yeah, okay, I read that. Yeah. It's crazy. That's wild. So what year did that happen? Was that in the 80s? That was like during their heyday.
That interview?
Yeah.
That was that was like their big trying to come back. This was super late 90s, if not like it would be like 99 or maybe even 2001, like in that 3-year era.
Okay, and Nardwuar had become a staple of journalism to that point where he was on
in Canada.
Yeah, he was on Much Music and
yeah. It's like he was known. He was known every Sunday night. He had like a 5-minute thing on Much Music every Sunday night.
Yeah, and I think a lot of American bands and performers that would go over there probably didn't understand that who this guy was, who they were being interviewed by, and that's why it seems like a lot of the American artists are so taken aback. But now with the internet, his presence is so big on the internet. People are like these young like rap groups that he interviews. They're so jazzed just to be in his presence. It's really cool.
Because what happened was just north of Vancouver, like 45 minutes north, they started doing these. So it's somewhere between Vancouver and like the big ski town Whistler. They started doing, excuse me, they started doing these big music festivals and bringing in all these big names. And like they would bring in, I think Jay-Z came in or something. And Nardwuar somehow got Jay-Z, right? And because the thing is, over the last 20 years or so, Nardwuar has become really close with Snoop Dogg. He's interviewed Snoop Dogg like
I've seen all of it. Yeah, I'm a big Nardwuar fan, so this is blowing my mind.
And so Nardwuar has kind of earned up, like he's leveled up.
Oh yeah,
immensely. And when you get not just the fact that he got to interview Jay-Z, but the fact that Jay-Z was all like, "This guy's the shit."
Yeah. Right.
And then then he interviewed I think Pharrell also at that festival, and then Pharrell was just blown away.
I saw that,
yeah, because he just pulls shit out of the woodwork, like, "Hey, look at this record," and the guy's like, "What the hell? Where did you find this?" He
digs so deep, and he finds these little things about the artist that only the artist would know, or they're like close family. How does he? Are there any? How does he get all that information? Like, how does he dig that deep? Is it like
he goes to what's that one? 4chan.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah,
that's funny.
Dark side of the web,
that's funny. He digs deep. He goes to the darkest of the dark web.
He goes to 4chan.
That's
ignores
funny.
the racism, ignores your bank account number, and just finds other dirt on you.
Yeah, just finds out about Pharrell on 4chan. No, because Pharrell was like, he looks at his buddy, and then he looks at the camera. He's like, "This is the greatest interview I've ever done." He like, like verbatim. That's what he says.
And that just gave him so many level up points that now he has like 1 million subscribers on YouTube. He's got over 1 million followers on Twitter now or something. Like people actually started a campaign to get Nardwuar up there.
Yeah.
And it was all hip hop dudes. Because I remember when I actually interviewed Nardwuar for a magazine I used to write for, and he was just like, "I'm not interviewing cock rock bands anymore. They're too violent. I got punched in the head by one. There was that horrible Quiet Riot interview." And I'm like, "Well, you could just do it all by phone, you know?" He's like, "No, fuck it. No more." And I got to see him interview Guar, which was hilarious. I got to witness that a couple times and watch Odorous wring his neck. That was fun.
But Dave Brocky has such a good sense of humor, though. I'm sure he knew.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure he knew what he was getting into.
Yeah. He took it all with a grain of salt for sure. So.
Rest in peace, Dave Brocky. So
yes.
Okay, so you're in Vancouver and you're picking up and delivering dead bodies, and you wrote a book about it.
Yes, and here's the book yet again. It is a book about how I used to pick up dead bodies and listen to Slayer and Cannibal Corpse as I used to drive around picking up corpses.
So, like I said before we started the interview, like my knowledge of the funeral business is limited to the HBO series 6 Feet Under. Can you want to like illustrate using verbiage what would a day in your life be like, or maybe just what's a gnarly story, or like give me an insight into this, because
okay. So one, the very first thing I can state, and this goes for all types of businesses, not just the one I was in, do not work for family, because they will take the worst advantage of you, and they will grind you to the point of no return whatsoever. and they'll just brutalize your spirit and soul and chop you down. I think that's what my dad was trying to do, was chop me down, that I will never do anything else except this. But
wow, dads, luckily, man, dads.
Luckily, punk rock music and death metal and listening to G.G. Allen while picking up corpses kind of steered me in another direction. So a common day would be like this. This were back in the days when we had pagers. Cell phones were very rare. We had the heavy brick cell phone with the long rubber antenna piece, aka one of the original cell phones.
Yeah, the Zach Morris phone, we call it.
Yeah. The Zach Morris special.
Yeah.
And like having a car phone was the phone was actually attached to the inside of the car, in the interior, and like had a little voice box, like a little speaker box, and then I actually had like a little wire, so I actually was hands-free well before
that's
we were
fancy.
Supposed to. Yeah. And so like a day would consist of no alarm would be set for me. We were on call 24 hours a day, right? So I had the pager, the volume on high. So my day consisted of sleep until the pager goes off, right? Because you don't know when that pager is ever going to go off or when the phone is going to ring. So you sleep. You hear the beep, beep, beep. You wake up. You're like, fuck me. And then it's like, I guess I'm going somewhere. I would have to call my dad. And all I would get given is, hey, here's the address of where you need to go. I'm like, okay. And it's always, surprise, this is what you're about to embark on, which could be anything like natural causes. Person died peacefully in their sleep. They forgot to take their medication the night before, ended up stroking out while they slept. So that's nice and peaceful, super easy peasy, nothing gross, whatever. But then you could get the like, hey, there was a car accident at the corner of blah, 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 and bloop, 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 and you're like, okay, how bad is it? Well, there's 3 dead. Super. We're going to need more stretchers, like
wow.
Each vehicle took 2 stretchers. So it's like, we're going to need a bigger boat.
Right.
We're going to need a van, not because we were driving station wagons, man. I had a station wagon with the wood panel siding, man. I felt like the Griswolds from Vacation. And I loved every second of it because I had tinted windows and wood paneling on a classic cruiser.
At least the windows were tinted,
Yeah. So back seats are down. There's a sheet of plywood, and then 2 stretchers would just roll back and forth because there was always like this much space still, so there would always be the rolling when you're slamming on the brakes. It would always go, you could feel the feet hitting you in the back of the chair, or you're sometimes it rolls back the other way, and you just hope that back door is latched so the back door doesn't fly open and the stretcher goes flying out with the body on it.
Jeez.
Which is a true story.
Yeah, you see that in movies and shit.
His book.
Okay.
And so then like I could end up doing 2 calls and that's my day, or I could end up doing 15 and that's my day. I was doing it at a time period where heroin was killing everybody in the downtown east side of Vancouver. It was pure China white heroin that even the head coroner came on TV to hold a press conference saying there's drugs killing people. You people need to wake up about this. Like, coroners don't give press conferences about a drug problem. You're supposed to have the health minister come and talk about drug problems, not the coroner. Yeah. And, every Welfare Wednesday, that one time of the month where all the druggies get their paychecks from the government, we called it Mardi Gras, and you were king for a day, and you're dead 2 days later because you spend all your money on the junk.
What year was this when the heroin got really bad? What year was that?
95.
Okay.
90, because this was back like 94 to 96 era, right? And so yeah, like I was going the same because there are a lot of these people that are living in these shabby hotels, right? Where you're renting the room out for the month. Some are renting it for the hour. Some are renting it for the week. Some are doing pretty much, they live there now. And you end up going into these places 2-3 times in a day. Wow. You know, I'll take one to the hospital, and then the phone rings again, and next thing you know, it's, I'm going right back to that same hotel again. And I've even had it where I went to the hotel, went up to room 303, right? Pick a guy up, and the next, about 5 hours later, I go back there, and I'm going to room 302. And the guy in 302 is like, has been dead for probably 5 to 6 days. So he's kind of rotted a bit, right? And gnarly looking. And in my head, I'm going like, I could have gotten them both at the same time. What the fuck? I had to come back here twice. Like, I should have recognized that smell when I was here earlier. I totally would have been able to pick up on it. And yeah.
So there's a heroin epidemic in Vancouver in the mid 90s, and you see it head on just because you're the one picking up all the bodies.
Yeah.
Woo. And that's in the book too?
Some of the drug stuff, yeah.
Okay.
The book, what the book mainly is what, like, the original plan for the book, where it was just going to pretty much be, each chapter was a story of like a crazy tale of a death that I had to deal with, right? Crazy car accident, or like a story that didn't make the book that a buddy of mine did, where the guy was totally impaled on a fence. Like, they actually had to lift him like that up to get him unimpaled and then get him on a stretcher. There's just crazy shit like that.
Yeah,
like,
you see that. You see that in movies. You don't think about that shit actually happens in real life.
Yeah, you know, picking up a guy who just jumped in front of a moving train.
Oh my God!
And it was first thing in the morning, rush hour, and there's like 3 feet of snow on the ground, and the guy jumped. Where he jumped, it was midpoint on the track, so the train's at full volume. Like, it's like a subway train, but up in Vancouver, it's the Sky Train, because it's above. It's 20-30 feet above, as opposed to 10-20 feet underground, right?
Yeah.
So there were some areas that were level with roadways and sidewalks, and he hopped the fence, jumped on right when it was at its peak of speed, so he ends up just getting destroyed underneath the train, and also dragged as well. So we had to walk probably a good 150 to 200 yards of track, picking up body parts during morning rush hour. So they shut down one track, so there's no access to anyone. But meanwhile, the other train is flying by, taking people to work. First thing in the morning, every 4 minutes, a train is flying by. And as me and my buddy are trying to just like, hey, here's an arm, blunk. Here's more body parts, blunk, blunk.
You know how I said I was going to try to avoid a personal anecdote, but let me just tell a quick personal anecdote. So
sure.
My girlfriend and I was at my old job, and she would sometimes come visit me because I was just babysitting these bands at this rehearsal studio, and we're watching this video, and it's this person lost a shitload of weight, like 150 pounds of body fat, so there's all this loose skin, and it's one of those plastic surgery fucking shows, and it's on like A&E or whatever, so it's like regular ass basic cable. I'm watching this, and they start sawing into all the extra skin. And then I lost all of the color in my face. My face, she said I turned fucking blue almost. And I pretty much fainted just by watching them sawing the extra skin off these people. So it turns out I didn't know this about me until last year. I didn't know that I am squeamish.
Very squeamish.
Yeah, very squeamish, because this is on a TV. This isn't even me witnessing this shit in real life. So, like, what sort of disconnect does a person have to have in order to walk on 150 yards of track and just pick up bodies? I mean, like, how did you? Is it just because it was a family business? You've been around it for so long? Is that what
that had a part to do with it?
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, because like my dad had been doing it since I was like 7 6, 7
So,
kind of thing.
So how
and
old, how old were you
Sorry?
how old were you when you first saw a dead body then?
Well, I was feeling them behind my head in the car.
Oh my God.
Since the age of 7.
Dude.
But you'd only just kind of see the outline of I never actually saw what was in the bag, right?
Wow.
I saw my first autopsy when I was 14 after seeing David Lee Roth at the Pacific Coliseum.
Okay. How did that go?
Because my dad was supposed to pick me and my buddy up at the Coliseum, right? And it was the Skyscraper tour, so it was wicked because he had Steve Vai on guitar. But,
nice.
That's a whole separate. Stu Hamm on bass. But that's
Stu Hamm's great. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Is that the what was the big single off that record?
Just Like Paradise.
Okay. What was the other one?
Well, he did the EP with the Just a Gigolo cover.
Oh, okay.
California Girls.
Okay, that's a song I'm thinking about. Is it Yankee something?
Oh, Yankee Rose.
Yeah,
that's from the early album before that one, Eat 'Em and Smile.
But that's still Stu Hamm and Steve Vai, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
Those dudes shred. Anyway, back to you were at the concert. Yeah. Sorry.
I can see me and you can go down many different rabbit holes.
We could do this for 3 hours. I got to take care of my area.
Sure.
Yeah.
so my dad was supposed to pick me and my friend up after the concert. So we were like 14, going to a rock show, and he had one of his workers come and pick us up, right? And I was just like, what's going on, man? Because at least I knew who the guy was, right? And my friend was kind of freaking out, like, who is this guy? Where are we going? And I was, don't worry about it. I got this taken care of. So the guy drives us to the morgue at the hospital where my dad is dropping off a body. And then, the guy says, like, okay, guys, come with me. And I said, no, I usually just wait out here. My dad always tells me not to go into the morgue. He goes, whatever, come on. I'm like, okay. So I was like, I'm going to get in trouble. And then I went down there and he took us around the corner, and sure enough, just as we get around the corner, all I hear and see is as the pathologist guy has this like insane saw tool as he's cutting the chest plate open so he can start an autopsy on a homicide. And I'm just like, what the fuck? And then he goes, yank. I'm like, okay, I have stuff to talk about at school tomorrow.
Wow. Wow.
And then it just kind of went from there where, like I have an older brother, and he always wanted to get into the business. And my dad always said, no, you can't do it. You don't have what it takes to do it. You don't have the stomach for it. You don't have the mind for it. And I was able to do it. And what my dad would do, not just with me, but everybody he would hire, he would make your first weekend or your first shift. He would try to get you he has no control, obviously, but for you to deal with the gnarliest of situations as quickly as possible to see if you can handle it. Because if you can handle the absolute worst case scenario of a death, then all the other deaths are going to be a piece of cake. You know what I mean? So the very first one I actually did was a guy who was dead for about a week and a half sitting on a toilet. So he's bloated, he's green, he's rotting, getting these insane big blisters on his arms and all over himself, and his face looks like he's allergic, but it's all green. His eyes are all puffed. Cheeks are puffed out. If you're getting nauseous, just let me know.
No, I'm good because I'm not looking at it.
Right.
Keep going though. This is amazing. I love this.
And then we, the guy I was with was like, okay, this is how we tackle it. He was the guy training me, and goes, okay, we're going to do it at the count of 3. And we're going to try to do it where there's no splash, no nothing, like rule number 1 I always found was don't get any on you. And rule number 2 is don't drop them. Right. So and it still sticks to me to this very day. Like the very first one I ever did is still etched in my brain and will probably never leave. And I was able to do it. And then my dad called the guy I was working with shortly, like after we dropped it off, and asked how I did. And the guy was like, he was right in there. He had no problems. He didn't run away screaming. And so I was like, I guess I got the job.
So it is like you got thrown in the deep end, and you and you could swim,
knowing how to swim or nothing. Yeah.
Well, hey, it was trial by fire, and you passed the test.
You have to. And that's, the business had a lot of turnaround. Like, there were people like, oh, I could totally do this job. I could totally do it. Like, I had friends that all were like, this job sounds easy. Like, what? All you got to do is carry it out to the car. Like, how hard is that? It's like, okay, I'll let you know when I have a 600-pound guy that I have to transfer. I'll let you know, good luck.
And this is the type of shit that you don't think about. You just think about, I die. But who comes and gets you?
Exactly. Well, that's the thing. Like, everyone goes, you die, and then snap, you're now in a funeral home, right? You don't know what happens between the two scenarios. Like, I've gone through McDonald's drive-thrus with rotted dead bodies in the backseat of my car, where the window rolls down and it's just this like gnarly cloud, like invisible cloud of just the most rank smell comes pouring out the window right into the guy's face that's going to take my money, and he's just like, and I have this little sign on the windshield that says BC Coroner Service. Like, we're unmarked vehicles. Nobody knows who we are except for the police.
So for those listening, give me like a Cliff's Notes version of what happens after a person dies. Like, someone goes, grabs just I don't know anything about like an autopsy, and then like what is the
okay? So what we would do is, bing, you get the call, you race to the scene, because for some reason my dad would always say 45 minutes or less, and I always said, like, we're not fucking Domino's, like, quit giving us the 45 minutes bullshit, We told every cop that we worked with that we'd be there in 45 minutes. And we worked a big territory as well. Like, it would be like going from, you're where? Huntington? Venice?
I'm in Long Beach.
Long Beach, okay. Yeah. So it'd be like going from Long Beach to, say, Santa Monica, which takes how long?
40 minutes, no traffic.
Exactly.
30 minutes, 35, no traffic.
So he's telling every cop this, no matter what the scenario is. I could be an hour and a half. I had a cop pull a gun on me because I took too long, and he was stuck in a house in the snow with a rotten corpse, and he hated every second of it.
Wow.
So what happens is, we go in, wrap the body up, put it on the stretcher, hoof it in the car, take it to a morgue, right? Now, at the morgue, between the coroner and the pathologist, they'll figure out at the morgue, like, hey, if it's natural causes, now we don't need to rip this guy open. We don't need to know nothing because, hey, this guy was on 25 medications, plus he was 97. Like, it's pretty obvious it was his time. But if you're looking at, like, 24-year-old, had white foam coming out of her mouth, it looks pretty weird. Then, autopsy, toxicology reports, the full, check the blood for whatever.
Okay, so the autopsy happens if necessary.
The ripping open part, they're gonna do like a toxicology, but if they start thinking foul play and stuff, then they're really gonna start to dive in there. Ooh. And sometimes they'll dive in anyways just to check organs, because it's like, oh, she was 24, but look, she had cancer, or hey, she had this going on and no one knew, right? The worst situations were always when children were involved. That was the hardest. I had to pick up a kid in a crib while the cracked out mom is screaming in the next room for her baby. Whew. And take the baby to the morgue. Like, stuff like that was pretty hard to deal with.
Yeah, I can't even imagine.
There were hard moments. There were even a couple times that I knew the family of the house I was about to walk into. So my friend is opening the door. It's like, hey, how are you? Oh, yeah, I know how you are, because that's why I'm here. So we'll talk later.
Dude.
My condolences. I'll buy you a beer after, eh? Like, what are you supposed to say at 2 a.m? I was woken up for this? What the fuck? No. So, and then, you would pick the body up, you take it to the morgue. Whether or not they do the autopsy is totally depending on the scenario of the case. And then they get the death certificate. They write it, the cause and everything. Then the death certificate's picked up by the funeral home, and then they can do the next step, which is the dealing of going to be cremated or buried. And then they work the whole process of getting the proper paperwork to do a burial, and then voila. So
why? And I don't know if there's a difference between Canada and the United States, but it's illegal to dispose of a body or burn a body like that. You know, you just said they had to get a permit for that. So if I wanted to, like,
you got to go through the proper you need permits, pretty much. You know, like, to do what you're doing. You're putting a human body in the ground 6 feet. Like, shh. Don't, shh. It's our secret.
So when I died, if I wanted to have like a Viking funeral and they put me out to sea and they burned my body, that's like totally illegal. Most likely.
Well, you know, they had a Viking funeral for the body of Voorhess.
Was that his? That wasn't his actual body, though, was it? I think that was just the costume, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah. But
okay.
yeah, to have that your real body, I think you would have to say in there, like, you need to take me to the Netherlands where it will be legal to have this type of funeral. Here in America, they'll be like, no, not happening unless you drive 20 miles out into the international waters. Then yeah, you can probably do whatever the hell you want.
Yeah, it's interesting to know. Okay.
I want to be placed in a catapult and just flung into the ocean.
That'd be fun.
Yeah,
I guess it wouldn't be fun because you wouldn't be conscious to witness and experience it.
Well, I was kind of hoping to have my last breath as I get flung. Yeah. And then die halfway in the air.
You ever seen that meme that was going around where it's a roller coaster about to go over the hill, and then they took Billy Corgan's voice from that song 1979 where he goes, wee! It just prolongs it. Have you ever seen that?
Yes.
Wee! It's funny.
So, and then, the book is all about the picking up dead bodies and me slowly finding my true inner self and becoming a punk rocker.
So is that how you ended up in the States? Like, was that the impetus for you to be like, man, fuck this family business. I'm going to go to Portland. I'm going to do something different.
Well, because this was back in the 90s. And then, strangely enough, I left the job and then I came back to the job. And then my dad sold the business and sold me with the business.
Whoa.
And then the next guy I worked for, and this was like 2001-ish era. That's when I was really starting to pick up steam and playing shows. I was in bands, and then the whole Mr. Plow thing was starting to pick up a bit, doing the solo acoustic thing. And then I got a phone call from Joey Shithead from DOA. He actually wanted to sign me to his record label, and his label manager told me, no, don't do it. Now, when the guy who works for the guy is telling you don't work with the guy who I work for, that's a bad sign.
That is a bad sign, yeah.
Yeah. So I said, no, I will not sign to your record label. And he was like, okay, fair enough. So I put out my own CD, and then he called me a few months later and said, hey, I need a roadie. I heard you're good. Are you willing to come with me? And I said, well, I have to see if I can get out of work because I pick up dead people for a living. And it's kind of ironic and funny where I'm trying to get out of work picking up dead people so I can tour with DOA.
Yeah.
It's very strange.
Just the name of the band.
Yeah. And so needless to say, I get the chance to go. My boss is like, yeah, just don't go becoming a fucking rock star. I need you when you get back. I said, okay. Then we start the tour. I find out at the beginning of the tour, like, oh, the first, 2.5 to 3 weeks, it's DOA and Fishbone cross Canada. That's when I met Norwood.
Nice.
2001.
Okay.
Right? Norwood's looking at me like, we were all kind of standoffish for the first few days because it's like, who are these fucking guys? Oh, who are these fucking guys?
Yeah.
It was like the Western Saloon standoff, right? Like, who's going to pull the gun first, kind of. Like, there's more of them than there are of us. They have a tour bus. We got a beat up old milk truck. Like, who's going to get to the show first? And Worked out to be a lot of fun. Somehow I just Nardwar.
It's happening. It's happening again.
Norwood like fell in love with me. I gave him my CD because I was just roadie guy. That's all he knew me as, was roadie guy.
Yeah.
And then two of us got drunk in the milk truck, like East Coast, like Nova Scotia or some shit, like right out in the Atlantic Ocean area. And I explained to him what I do, and he was just like, this sounds crazy. And I gave him the CD. The next day he comes up to me and he's just like, Plow, I fucking love you. Plow, it's Plow time. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And then all of a sudden in the bathroom, I then hear Angelo singing my songs in the bathroom as he's walking around the bathroom listening to his Discman, where he's just listening to my CD over and over again, singing all my songs. And it was just like, this is fucking, like, what is now happening to me? And the last night of where it was DOA Fishbone was a sold out show in Montreal, no openers whatsoever. So they each had like an hour and a half, 2 hours to play. Norwood, and this is the only thing I give Shithead credit for, is they both went up to the promoter and said, give this guy 15 minutes. Like, he's with us, just let him go up. There's no other bands. And they're like, okay. All the dudes from Fishbone sat at the side of the stage to watch me play, because they're like, we spent all this time with you. We now realize this is what you do. We now think you're fucking hilarious. We want to see it in person. Do it. Knocked their fucking socks off at the show. I then performed a song with DOA that night at the very end of their set. Kuba, the bass player, handed me the bass. They taught me the song like 2 days before, basic 3-chord punk rock. And then later that night, Angelo called me up on stage to sing Party at Ground Zero with them. Now, to get 500 French Canadian people to go, ooh, ooh, and to have them say, raise the roof, has to be one of the greatest moments of my life. It was also one of the very first moments in my musical career as well. Like, still to this day, nothing tops that show I played. And when I got home from that tour, went back to work, picking up corpses, and everybody, I guess, had heard where I was and were like, oh, are you going to become a rock star now? And I'm like, I don't know. And then Norwood emailed me saying, we're taking you on tour in 3 months. Are you game? And I said, yeah, I guess I'm a rock star now. I quit. Left the job. Fishbone took me on tour for like 2 months after that. We did a American tour. We did a Western Canadian tour. And then I got the touring bug, and I would sneak across the border with my guitar and tour the States, toured Canada by myself, toured Canada with the Dayglow Abortions, toured Canada again numerous times by myself, snuck back into the States, and then also toured with SNFU, and never looked back. Like, I picked up corpses off and on for 5 years, and then lived off music for 10 plus years. And then I, in the music thing, met my wife through touring to the States 11 years ago. 10 years ago, she lived up in Canada briefly. 10 years ago, we decided to move to Portland because this was her neck of the woods. And now we've fully come full circle to your original question of how did I get to Portland?
There you go. And there's always some inciting incident, where the light bulb goes off in your head and you're like, this is what I should be doing. And like, I had that moment when I was a junior in high school. We played some Battle of the Bands in Detroit, and I'm just like, I got to do this forever. Like, you get the bug, like you said, you catch the bug. So you're on tour with some of your heroes. They get your CD. Next thing you know, they're singing the fucking lyrics. Next thing you know, you're on stage and they're watching you. It's a beautiful feeling. I could totally relate to that. Mind blowing, yeah. And now you are where you are because of that trajectory, and that's a beautiful thing about life. Because all it takes, dude, like the gig we got with Norwood in 2011, if that never would have happened, he never would have heard us. And that gig happened by accident. So we get this accidental gig. We meet Norwood. Next thing we know, 2012 happens. We're like, he's managing our band. We're meeting all these new people, and that's the beautiful thing about life. Regardless of whether or not you're in music, these things that happen by accident will changed the trajectory for fucking ever. And then next thing, I mean, I'm living in fucking California right now. It's super expensive. I don't know how long I'm gonna be here. I don't know what's going on with the corona. We'll figure it out. But dude, it's like, I wouldn't know that girl right there if it wasn't for fucking meeting Norwood in 2011. Yeah, I love hearing stories like this, especially like you were saying, it got you out of something that, I mean, you had the stomach for it, but did you necessarily ultimately enjoy?
I think eventually I would have snapped.
Yeah.
Like, and I think it would have been a really bad snap.
Oh yeah.
You know? Like there was one guy, a pathologist, works in a morgue, right? It was like, hey, where's Gary? Which obviously is not his real name, but it's just like, you show up one day and you're like, hey, where's Gary? And you're like, oh yeah, Gary's not here anymore. And you're like, really? Do tell. It's like after 35 years, yeah, Gary decided to shave his head with a scalpel yesterday.
Oh no.
And then he emptied the aquarium of all the water, but left all the fish in there, and then wrote a big fuck you note to the head boss of the hospital. And then didn't let stuff leak on the floor and just went, and that's the end of Gary. It's like, okay, so Gary snapped is what you're saying.
You know that Minutemen song, History Lesson Part 2, where it says punk rock changed our lives? Have you heard that?
Who does that one?
Minutemen.
Oh, okay.
Punk rock changed our lives.
Yeah, well, it's true.
And I hear that story from so many people, especially like doing this podcast and hearing other people's stories. It's a beautiful thing. You know?
Yeah. Like one of the very first bands I was in, which was during the first tour of duty, picking up corpses, I would pick my buddies up in the corpse car, right? So one guy would have to ride on the stretcher.
Oh
and
my gosh.
It was the smaller of the two guys that I played in the band with, right? So he would always be head up here, head first. So he's always kind of like this. So he'd kind of be able to look at us and like still talk to us, right? But he'd always be moving back and forth because of the car. And that's how we would drive to band practice all the time. And then he ended up writing a song called When You're Dead, which was all based off everything I told him about what I did for work. So he wrote us, and we played this song every gig we played for the first while. And then when I put out my second album, I put out a song called Compromising Positions, which is all about everybody dies in compromising positions. Some people just die. Right. But it's true, like everyone, and it just talks about all the some different ways of how we found bodies. A guy sitting on the shitter, another one sitting with his dick in his hand because, hey, you can jerk off and you can die, because it has happened.
Oh yeah. I used to work for this catering company, and there was this dude that used to help out bartending, and we would always work together because I was a bartender, he was a bartender. The girl he would soon marry was a bartender. So there's the three of us. And then flash forward 4 years, I'm working this guy's funeral because he died while fucking the girl that we all worked with. So she's sitting at the bar crying. The guy's gone because he's dead because he died while he was fucking her.
And you're catering.
And I'm pouring her drinks. While she's weeping about the guy we all used to work together, and he died during sex. He died while having sex with her.
But did she tip you well though?
I think she did. I don't remember. I just remember being like, wow, this is like, 3 years ago I thought these people were assholes, and now
right.
And now
even one more just crazy thing when it comes to that DOA tour was back in that first tour of duty, 94 to 96 there, the drummer, well, at that time, the drummer of DOA died in a house fire.
Oh, wow.
And I picked him up. And then fast forward, 6 years, I'm sitting in a vehicle with the only original member of DOA, and not even the first hour in the car ride, he goes, "So I heard you picked up Ken," and I was just like, "Oh, fuck!" Like the label manager, I told him, like, "Do not tell Joe that I did that. Do not bring that up. I shouldn't even have told him." Right. And that's the first thing he brings up with me in the tour. It's just like, oh, we shouldn't be having this conversation.
Yeah. But I mean, he asked.
Yeah.
And you did, so.
But he found out,
Yeah.
And then like touring with the Dayglow Abortions, which in Canada are like super legends. They're known in the States, they're known around the world, but they're legends. And driving around with those guys, it was hilarious because we played the game of like the top 10 deaths that I saw. And they just got gnarlier and more gruesome as we got closer to number one. Their drummer tapped out, I think, at number 4. It was just like, I can't hear anymore.
Was number 1 the train thing that you told me?
I think that was in the top 4.
Top 4. Oh my jeez. Oh my Lanta.
But in this book, there was some squeamish stuff. There was some hilarity as well. And a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah, I want to read it.
Oh, I'm still sending you one. And then
Please
also
do.
Here, just for more shameless plugging, my wife wrote a book. It's a children's book. Just trying to get that glare off of it.
Yeah, I can see it.
It's all about these hamsters that live in a cemetery, and it's actually based on a true story. And she did all the artwork, and it's a rad children's book that you should all buy. I have music on Bandcamp. If Reverb Nation is still a thing, I haven't been to that website in so long.
Yeah, the links are below. I put all the links in the description for the YouTube. So,
and then my wife now has a podcast. I'm trying to remember the name of it. It's a super awesome podcast. I want to give her one of those great plugs.
Yeah, plug away, baby.
Yeah, you know how that goes.
Got to plug.
Shit, I gotta find the. You can keep asking me questions while I find this one.
Well, I just want to know what number 1 is.
Oh.
Because if you're just telling it to me, it's like a book, I'm not gonna get squeamish. But if I see it with my own eyes, I'll pass out.
Her podcast is called Sleepy Knots Saturday. And she tells these great stories about fictional tales of her dating and famous, well-known actors, but not just dating and just weird concepts that they have to go through in everyday life. Like she wrote letters as though Tom Hardy was her husband and it was the Civil War times.
Wow, weird. I like that though.
So she was just, the podcast is her telling reading the letters between the two of them.
That's very interesting. That's a creative concept.
Yeah. No, it's super awesome. So Sleepy Knot Saturday, and new episode comes out every Saturday, such as today. So you really want to hear number 1?
Yeah.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well, hang on. I'm going to give you a teaser first and see how you do.
Okay.
So like we said, when bodies are decomposed, right, skin gets loose on them. The veins, they'll start getting little like blisters. Like you'll see like a huge skin blister here, and then you'll see a puddle of blood just sitting there in the blister. So you'll see I can already tell by your face things are going wrong. So
if you make me pass out, that would be 2 firsts. The first screaming baby and the first me passing out during the podcast.
Hey, it's the 50th episode.
Let's go.
Let's shoot.
Let's go.
So you get these big blisters, right? You can get them anywhere. It's all based on how the person is laying and gravity, like you mentioned before, right?
Yeah.
Everything's being pulled down and whatnot. So you have a guy sitting in a Archie Bunker type chair.
Yeah, like
right?
a recliner.
Yeah. But the recliner is up, so his feet are up, right? In front of him on a table is a mirror. And also on the table are 2 lamps faced at him, right? Like he tilted the lights so they're shining on him. So he's a rock star looking in the mirror. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Completely naked, decomposing beyond belief, hand on his wiener. So he was giving himself a show. He was getting off watching himself, right? But on top of that, the longer you stay in the position and you rot and everything else. His nutsack, yay big.
It gets bigger.
They turn into elephant nuts because it's all fluid, just moving its way down the course.
Oh my G's.
So they're G-force.
Oh my G-force.
so the goal was, can we get him out of this chair into the body bag on the stretcher without his nutsack exploding?
Okay, and?
That was the game that we got to play.
Oh my jeez.
I'm not spoiling the ending. That's up to you to decide if they exploded or not.
Well, you don't want to tell me?
I'm not telling you. That's for the.
It's in the book. All right, I got to read the book. Okay, well, that's a really great way of having someone buy the book. Is you tell them you set it up for them, and you got to read the rest. You got to fucking read the rest.
Like I down by the ferry boats that would take you from the mainland to Vancouver Island. There's like this long roadway to get you out to the ferries, and a jogger found a guy just sitting on the beach or whatever. His eyes were pecked out by seagulls and crows.
Wow.
Yeah, he had no sight. He was dead. He had no sight anyway.
Yeah, he had no sight. He couldn't see. That's fucking funny.
3 guys, this did not make the book. 3 guys drove all the way from Quebec, Canada, got to just outside Vancouver, lived in a storage locker till they were on their way to Seattle to kill themselves because of Kurt Cobain, right? Because it was like that era right after he had done himself in, because he did himself in '94, right? So this was like 3 or 4 months later. They drove, their goal was to drive to Seattle to kill themselves. 3 super French Canadian Nirvana fans. And they ended up dying in this storage unit because of carbon monoxide, because of their car was in there and they were trying to keep themselves warm. And, they ended up dying there. And the 3 of them weren't found for almost 2 weeks. So they were pretty gnarly, disgusting situations there that we had to deal with. It was a 3-for-1 scenario.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't really listen to Nirvana much after that one.
That's wild. Yeah, that would have an effect.
Yeah, their music didn't really do anything for me after that.
Oh my, that's crazy. Well, I can't read. I can't even talk. I can't wait. We're fumbling words here. I can't wait to read the book. And thanks for being on the show. And I gotta cut it because
we've gone over. I see that we've gone over.
I made a promise to.
I know. And I'm helping you stick to that promise.
I gotta maintain the health of my lower extremities.
Yeah, like I said, I've been there, and remember what I told you.
I will.
Don't push.
No, don't push. Just like that.
Don't push.
Just like that Sublime song. Well, thanks, Mr. Plow, Dave Plow. It's a pleasure, and I'm looking forward to reading your book, man. And
yeah, man, I'm gonna definitely. I meant to send you one this past week, but I'm gonna make sure to do it.
No, I need to hear the rest of that story about the man showing himself to himself.
So. And there's a whole bunch of other that'll make you go.
Yeah, I'm ready. You have piqued my interest. But yeah, we're gonna cut it. If you hit that red button, I'm gonna say goodbye to the homies and
the leave button.
Yeah, and thanks again, man. And Godspeed. Stay safe.
Of course, you as well. Hey, I live in civil unrest country right now.
Yeah, I know, and we should talk about that too. But fuck, so much.
Hey, if you want to do it again next Saturday, let me know.
Let's do it every Saturday from now on.
Well, no, we can just continue on another day. That's fine.
Okay, that's a possibility too. It might be a little bit, but like I definitely want to know.
We'll talk more Nardwuar too.
Yes. Thanks, man.
I'll send you my. Okay, no, I'll say this. I'll think about sending you my Nardwuar collection DVD that I have.
I don't even have a DVD player.
Okay, then I'm not sending you that.
If you can rip it and send me a digital file, that would work. But
I don't. No, just watch the YouTube videos because it's just a collection of that.
Okay, yeah, I'm a huge fan. Well, thanks for being on the show, dude. Number 50. Man. Appreciate you, man.
We'll talk soon. Cheers.
All right, cheers to you.
Cheers.
Yay! So So there you go. I have to end. The podcast from this point on is going to be 1 hour. The live streams from this point on is going to be 1 hour. If you would like to support your boy, links in the description. We have new merch. We have masks, that orange face masks. And yeah. We have t-shirts. We restocked a bunch of t-shirts, and we're doing the thing. And I'm going to go because I made a promise to Allie that I wouldn't sit for longer than an hour, and it's for my health, and I'll explain later. Or maybe I explained too much. Who knows? I got to go. Episode 50, we're doing it. We're still doing it, and I am going to leave having an enjoyable weekend, every beautiful human being. Love you, love you, love you.